Starting. We're live. Hello, everybody. This is Ray.
Hey, and I'm Dan.
And we are the Bearded Men of Real Estate podcast. Welcome to our very first episode, episode 1. Dan, who are you? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
I'm just Dan. No, we'll just cut it there. It's my intro. I'm done.
Done. And you've got a beard. That's all you.
That's it. My name's Dan. I'm a realtor. Beard. Boom. Podcast. Dan Ludwig. I work for a company called the Associates Realty Group. Southern California is where we're based. We have offices all over the place. San Diego is our kind of farthest south, and then we have about 4 that are relatively close to where my home base is.
That's cool.
Claremont, California is where I'm currently sitting. And so a little about me, I wanted to go back through like why I became a realtor. I didn't have really like a history. I didn't have a parent that was into it. I didn't have a good friend that was a mortgage guy. None of that. It was very simple. We sold our house in Pasadena in 2011, and I dug the process. Cool. It was pretty simple. There was an agent, and she owns 3 Keller Williams offices. Her name is Jane Parsons. Phenomenal lady. She's just so cool. And when we're getting ready to sell the house, she just it was just so impressive, man. She almost like floated into the room, like, wow. It was just so impressive because she's done this for, now she's probably 30 years in. Her son is super successful, and part of it. And then her husband is her partner and broker, so the whole family. It was just so because at the time I had taken a layoff from the video game industry to stay home with my daughters.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't know if I was going to go back into, because I had operations management before that. And then, production management or project management is what I did in the video game industry. So what was I going to do? And I just see this super impressive, like, wow, that's cool. I want to be that lady,
That's cool.
Obviously I can't be a lady.
Bearded Lady podcast.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah. The Bearded Ladies of Real Estate. We've already come up with our spinoff.
Yeah.
Like 2 minutes into our first podcast. And then just, that was cool. She had a team, and it was just so impressive. She did the thing, and it was literally like, there was not really an appointment. It was just, oh yeah, this will sell for, and then whatever. This is adorable. This will sell for $6.15 all day long, whatever it was.
Wow.
And I was like, we're okay, cool. We weren't going to interview other agents. She was just the best. And, if she didn't impress us, we probably would have looked into it, but she was just amazing. And then the process was just cool. I loved, kind of the team aspect, because I'm a team. I love being on a team. I love being part of a team. And they all had their different pieces, and they worked it perfectly. It was amazing. And then, like, the negotiation process is really what it put it over the top for me. And then, it was the discussions with my wife. Is it a good decision for the family? Because I can have more free time, be around my girls still. Because Ray, you've heard me say it a lot. I'm essentially a full-time stay-at-home dad and a full-time realtor. And it's worked out great in the last 5 years.
That's cool.
And just started studying and got my license. That was at the end of 2011. Then I started working when my daughters were 2. So
you've been in it for 5 years then?
Yeah, started working.
Yeah. This is your 6th.
Yeah, 6th. I consider when I started working, the beginning of 2012, when I kind of started understanding it, because I started with Keller Williams, and just the classes and the bold and the everything and the atmosphere, it was perfect for new agents. I loved it for new agents. It was so good for me. So good for me. So, that's about me. Cool. Ray, who are you?
Yeah, I am Ray Ellen, bearded realtor in Arkansas. I'm actually in Little Rock, Arkansas. We kind of service about 4 counties here locally, with a group called the Property Group. We're just a small boutique firm. I used to be with, I guess I was first licensed in 2007. I'd worked as an assistant before that.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. And that was
like at the crash.
Yeah. I guess it was 2 years after college. Right. I graduated in 2004. I became a real estate assistant in 2006 because I've just always been fascinated about it. My grandparents owned timber property. I can remember as a kid, like going out and marking purple on the trees and scraping bark and talking about everything you could do with the property when you owned it. So I've just always kind of been fascinated about real estate, but no one in my family worked it. It was just kind of an enigma. And then, of course, you go through high school and you graduate, you go through college and graduate, and you don't even know what a mortgage is. It's like, what's this mortgage everybody's talking about? So I began to educate myself a little bit on it, got involved as an assistant first, just helping other agents market and sell their properties. And then in 2007, January of 2007, I got my license because we had marketed over 49 million in property my first year in Arkansas. That's a big number.
That's a really big number. Yeah. So, knowing your median sales price. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So I told my wife, I was like, had I been licensed, our life would be way different. She was like, yeah. So I got my license. We had an incredible 4 months. Then
you mean right out the box?
Yes. Yeah. We had an incredible 4 months. I sold my first.
Sorry. 2007.
Yeah. I sold like 4 or 5 other properties in the first couple of months. I had several lined up. And then the bottom just like totally dropped out that summer. Investors pulled back. Everything started pulling back. And up there, I was in Northwest Arkansas at the time, and there were entire fields that would be grown up, and you kind of start looking and you'd realize that there's curbs and there are streets and sidewalks through this whole field. And it was a development that had gone completely belly up.
And they just walked away.
They just walked away. Builders were, that was happening a lot. So I actually hung with it for about 1.5 years, 2 years, even through the crash. I got recruited by a business brokerage. I started doing that. Wound up owning a couple of companies. To make a long story short, we were in Texas, wanted to move back to Arkansas. So I reactivated my residential real estate license in 2013. And I guess that fall, I restarted this thing. So since then, we haven't looked back. I mean, it's really funny. The second time you do something, I had totally different eyes when I was looking at everything. Like, I would see something, and instead of just seeing, oh man, this transaction didn't work out, I started asking a lot of whys. Why did this transaction not work out? What could I have done better? What could we have done better as a group? And then, this one closed and everything went smoothly. I would also still ask why. Why was this one fantastic and this one was a fantastic failure? And so
that's good to look at why it succeeded as opposed to why it failed.
Yeah. So I literally journaled those things. And today we have a team that's kind of running and operating those systems. We have a couple of buyer specialists with us, a couple of admins, and we have a videographer now. So everything in real estate is kind of changing. We're headed that direction, which kind of brings us to, I guess, why we are doing this. So Dan and I guess we hooked up on Facebook. So
he was in town.
So whatever you see, a guy like Dan, and I think it was one of those real estate networking groups, and I saw Dan post something, and I was like, man, he looks just like the guy from GOT. And sure enough, I think I posted the picture of that guy, the big red beard dude.
Tormund Giantsbane.
Yes, that's his name. There you go. Mm-hmm. So, and we started talking and chatting and realized we have a lot of the same philosophies, similar ideas, but different approaches. And the more we talked and the more we brainstormed, the more we realized how much we were learning from each other. So what we thought about doing is creating just kind of a podcast where we jam on various real estate topics. And in doing that, the format that I think we're going to go with, and we're, in the beginning stages, so we're testing this a little bit, but we're going to start with a headlines portion of the program where we're going to read fairly quickly through the main real estate headlines that we have found that week. And while these are the ones that we found that we think, hey, these kind of have some gravity to it, we would also love to hear what everyone else thinks. So if you found an article or something, you're like, hey, this needs to get out there, more people should know this, just shoot it to us. We'll be happy to kind of talk about it and also give you a shout out for sending it our way. This is probably going to be more or less an industry related podcast, less of a consumer related podcast, but there will be some interesting tidbits, especially for investors or people that are just kind of interested in real estate. But definitely if you're a real estate agent, we hope to cover some topics that are going to be good for us as agents to know too. So the second portion, go ahead.
And just to get everyone talking, because honestly, since we've hooked up on Facebook, the conversations have been in so many different formats, all the different apps and Messenger and just Facebook alone. And it's been constant between just you and I.
Right.
So, and then we have other colleagues that chime in, and it's a great flow. So we wanted to kind of bring this to, to the masses, I guess, and really get that conversation going. And then simple bearded men of real estate.
BMORE. I love it. So the second,
that's the thing. I love the BMORE thing.
So the second part of the show is we're going to pick out a couple of the headlines and we're going to jam on those specifically. So we'll kind of dig deep into a couple more of the topics, talk about our own personal experiences, how they relate. We'll probably have a couple of questions in there that we ask each other that we can't answer. So that's also the place for you guys to chime in and say, oh, I know the answer to that one, or this has been my experience. We'd love to hear that too. So without further ado, are you ready to get in the headlines?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. And this is where I feel like I should have a transition. It's like, okay. A recent value insured study notes that consumers may be starting to worry about housing correction and believe that now is the time to sell. Joe Melendez, CEO of Value Insured, said that we see more home buyers concerned with the timing in the market. He went on to say this is especially true for millennials who are more likely to switch jobs, relocate, or need to upsize in the next few years. No one wants to buy at the peak and find themselves underwater as so many did years ago, he said. So in this study, 83% of Americans believe that now is the time to sell. 58% believed that there would be a housing bubble and a price correction within the next 2 years.
Yeah. Now, that bubble thing, because bubble burst, obviously, like when you started in 2007, 2008, that's a scary term.
Right.
How he said the price correction, I think it's more going to be a correction, because what was everything built on 10 years ago? Just crap. There was no good loans, not one.
Right.
But now, and it became so difficult to get loans. It has loosened up, I guess, in recent years, in the last 2 years from what I've seen, where it's a little easier, but there's still, I mean, underwriters nowadays, they want a lot at the, I get a lot of conditions at the end. We need this, and this, another VOE, verification of employment.
How many packages of unopened underwear are there in your underwear drawer? Yeah, they want everything.
I need to know. That. Is it Elmo underwear? Because we can't.
No.
You are a risk. So to me, it's more of a correction or a plateau is kind of how we've been saying it to be, not like a burst. So I would almost say like a fear of it bursting is almost irrational. Would be my kind of take on that,
And we'll jam on this and a couple more of the statistics that they shared at the end of the show. So stay tuned.
Yeah. And then next, Apple. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. First of all, have you guys heard of Apple? They're a newer company, been around a couple of years. They released a new iPhone. Big news. Obviously, I see my feeds on all my different social medias filled with it. Tuesday, Apple released its new line of products. The Apple Watch 3, better, faster, and now with cellular built in. The new Apple TV, better, faster, and now 4K. And the new iPhone, so there's an 8, an 8S, and then an X or 10 if you want to be kind of the square. Cool people say X. With no home button, which I think is an interesting feature, like why it's such a big deal, because my Samsung 8 Plus has no home button either, but again, we'll riff more. And the long-awaited edge-to-edge display, which is so now some of you may be thinking, what does this have to do with real estate at all? So we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah. So home prices jumped 6.2% in the second quarter, eclipsing a 2016 high. So in a report from the National Association of Realtors, the national median existing single-family home price in the second quarter was $255,600, which is up 6.2% from the second quarter of 2016, which is $240K, and surpasses the third quarter of last year, $241K, as the new peak quarterly median sales price. The median price during the first quarter increased 6.9% from the first quarter of 2016 as well. So Lawrence Yun, NAR chief economist, says that home prices in most metro areas continued their fast ascent in the second quarter because the supply remained at pitiful levels.
Yes, exactly. We're seeing the same thing here if we're just, my local markets. And I think that kind of jumps off the other topic that we were just talking about with the, millennials being afraid that there's going to be a bubble because things keep going up. It can't do that. Can it sustain that? So recent research shows that homeowners who list their home for sale by owner, in the industry we call them FSBOs, are not saving money. How true is that? In a report by Collateral Analytics, they examined the price differentials for homes sold through traditional agents through the multiple listing service compared to FSBOs, or for sale by owner sales, for a variety of geographical markets with data from 2016 to 17. And then the quote is, "We find that FSBOs tend to sell for lower prices than comparable home sales, and in many cases below the average differential represented by the prevailing commission rate. We improve upon prior studies by using an automated value model, or AVM, to control for differences in property attributes. And we'll touch on that actual model later.
This is super interesting for me, so I can't wait to kind of dig into some of the details. It's a really interesting study. So if you haven't Googled the collateral analytics housing study, you should definitely do that and take a look at it.
You're definitely a numbers guy, and I'm a numbers guy too, but not on your level. But it's a great read. It's a great read.
Yes, I'm a little more nerdy. So the National Flood Insurance Program may be expiring soon, or will it really? I mean,
yeah,
right?
Is it really?
Really?
With recent events, really? We can just leave it there. Really?
So the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP, is now less than 1 month away from expiration, raising concerns that homeowners and consumers and commercial property owners could find themselves either unprotected or unable to get a mortgage, or underwater with no reprieve. I added that last part. This would affect roughly 40,000 transactions per month, which is the exact reason why this will never run out. 40,000 transactions per month means property taxes for all local and state levels. So there's no way that they're going to let this thing run out, but they all use it as a political football to toss it down the road. I think they already have something now that's a temporary reprieve for this. So I just don't see it happening, especially with Harvey hitting and Irma and all these people that are currently sitting underwater. For this to run out at this time is like the worst time in history politically. It's political suicide.
Yeah, it would be obviously just affecting 40,000 transactions per month. Think about the timing.
Yeah.
Even if they, just push it through or get something, a Band-Aid fix for now, it's the worst timing. They would just be viewed as, I mean, geez, that would go up there on, the views of, horrible things to do at the wrong time.
But the headline scared me, so I'll give them political money, right?
Yeah. If for those people who don't read actual articles, oh my gosh. Well, I guess I better throw money that way now. So pending home sales lessened by 0.8% in July. Dun, dun, dun. In a brief filed August 31st, NARS, NAR, National Association of Realtors, chief economist said that these pending sales were weaker in most areas in July, as house hunters saw limited options for sale and highly competitive market conditions. The next pending home sales index will be released later this month. So, I'll get into it a little bit later, but I'm a buyer's agent. I solely work with buyers. So we're seeing a lot of that limited options for sale. It's
really interesting. I think these two studies go hand in hand together. The jump 6.2% in the second quarter, along with the home sales actually lessening 0.8%, which in reality, I mean, that's a 1%. The error, I wonder what the error of the study is, right? So
0.7%.
Right. So it's relatively flat in the seasonality that it should be up. And that part's interesting too.
Yeah.
Well, that's the headlines. Yep. Well, that's the headlines that we found for the week of September. What was Monday? I don't even know.
Well, 14th, 13th, 12th, 11th. Yeah. No.
So that's the headlines that we found from September 11th through September 15th. If you guys have any questions or suggestions about the headlines that we should have, just find us on the social media webs. We'd be happy to add some of those for next week. So let's get into some of the talking points. Transition. Transition.
We have to do the thing. Yeah. You guys are currently seeing us work it out as we go.
Yeah, we'll figure all this out later.
We'll just stick with it, whatever.
All right, so for the first main talking point, let's talk about that the study released by Collateral Analytics that was the for sale by owners. We're going to call them FSBOs probably most of the time.
Yeah.
Same thing for us.
Yeah.
So FSBOs were selling for less, which, we've kind of always talked about in the industry. I can remember when I first got, when I was first involved, I would go over to somebody's house to actually take a picture of their house and shoot their house. And the guy was formerly for sale by owner, and now he's selling. And, we always heard that they were selling for less as for sale by owners they would in real estate or listed with an agent. But one of the questions is one of the first things I always have to tell a for sale by owner home usually is that you have to drop your price because they're priced way out of the market, which is one of the reasons they don't sell. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know how they figured this out. So first, what do you think? What's been your experience as a buyer specialist working on as the sole agent versus a FSBO? And then what do you think about how they did this study using the automated valuation model?
Yeah. So specifically about price, I'll start with, because I'm, like I said, a buyer's specialist solely, and have been for 5 years essentially. We just had one. We just had a recent, we meaning a client and I just had a recent, we had to cancel with a FSBO. We got into escrow with them. We did see them on the multiple listing service. They paid a broker like $150 just to put it in the MLS. And that's a catch right there. I'll come back to that in a second. But, my client really liked the home. So I do what I do every time. If you take a home, if you like 3 of the 5 that I just showed you, I will send you comparables on all of them. And then we'll kind of get a top priority list and we'll offer. But this one, I run comps, overpriced. It was just simply put. And it wasn't crazy overpriced. It was probably, it was listed at 352. It was probably more of a 340, 342 home.
Yeah.
They did have some, like a real estate friend, she said, the owner said, that, helped them on their price, but still it was over. There's no, when you go into a listing appointment, Ray, if they say, I think we have a 350 house, and you'll boom, here's some data to say why it's not a 350 house.
Right.
And here's how you could chase the market down. You don't want to do that.
Right.
So, that's kind of the first thing off was price. So,
and just kind of to back up, talking about real estate friend, if you're a real estate agent who does this for your friends, you're really doing them a disservice, because what you're doing is saying that this is the average of homes sold on the market. So even if they were to list for sale by owner, we know that they don't get a quarter or an eighth of the exposure that we could provide as agents on the market. So what the real question you need to ask is, what would the home sell for without any exposure? Then tell that to your friend.
Yeah.
And second off, if you're a real estate friend and you couldn't get the listing, I mean, here's somebody coming to you for help and you can't convert. I mean, come on, brush up on scripts. Let's do something there, because
super easy script. I'm your friend and I'll list your home. Thanks.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I don't know, but I think this was actually a somewhat in area agent, not within 10 miles, but within less than 30. And she didn't get the listing. But the disservice thing is huge. And, additionally, even if you're out of area and you're giving him this opinion, get him a referral, get him someone that you've found or close that can really help him out and guide him through the process. Because where I'll jump to from there is, and I never really thought about it before because I had seen FSBOs, but I'd never been in escrow on one. So what I immediately realized was these guys are unprotected.
Yeah.
They have no broker helping them out. So if anything goes awry, my broker is essentially going to, ruin them. There's no way, they would just have an avalanche of lawyers all over them. They're totally unprotected in, with these contracts, there's so much fine print. If you don't have, an actual agent reading through them for you, then you have your TC, which helps, eyes on those contracts, your broker, your standards and practices, your E&O, like you're totally unprotected here. And so what they really missed out on is, I don't know about your markets, Ray, but a lot of time on the listing, if we see some things in the home that are kind of iffy or termite, we'll have inspections done up front. So when we did our inspection, I mean, it was just an avalanche for them. The home looked nice, but it was really, really rough. And there was no one to tell them that, because they're the homeowners and they have the most special home in the neighborhood, right?
Right. Lipstick on a pig.
Exactly. And this one was that. They didn't even have cleanouts there was no cleanouts for any of their sinks. Nothing. Not a cleanout.
That's weird.
Yeah. So if there's a clog, or you can't clean out. And just so many other problems with the home. And they also bought it on their own. They didn't have an agent. They went straight to the seller. So they had kind of a half, hearted inspection, didn't bring up much. So we were bringing up all these issues, which were legit, and they were just blown away, and, they had to cancel. And then the end of the story is now they're listed with an agent and it's 25 grand less, which is about ballpark for them, knowing the issues with the home and where it should actually be listed. It's about 325, 330 now. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a huge issue. Whenever I
Yeah.
walk through a home, previewing it to possibly list it, one of the things I'm checking above the doors, I'm looking around, the baseboards, see if there's any termite damage, all that stuff, because we have termites are a huge issue here. So
Yeah. Same here.
just kind of alerting the settler to those things on the front end goes a long way to
Mm-hmm.
what I call bulletproof the transaction on the back end. And
Yeah.
letting them know, hey, somebody's going to come in and pick apart your house from top to bottom. So how sure are you that everything is fine? If they're not very
Yeah.
sure, if they haven't maintained their home well, I always recommend a pre-listing inspection. Is what we call it here.
Yeah. And we do the same thing as well. And my partner, who's the listing agent, he's great with that stuff. And he's great about not making it overwhelming. He doesn't say your house is jacked up, we need to fix stuff up front.
Right.
But it's more of we're letting you know that, same thing, top to bottom. And also just guidance. If the home is super cluttered, or if it has kind of beat up carpet, and for $2,500, we could get you another 5 or 10 grand with hardwood floors in here. That's all that guidance that you don't have without an agent there for you. So, I know it's a tough thing for them with, if you just do the math, 3% and 3%, it's a lot, but all the stuff you're lacking without that, you're not saving money at all.
Yeah. And so the second half of this study is they used automated valuations, which is something that it's really funny, because I guess when consumers saw automated valuations coming, they were like, oh, sweet, we don't need agents, we don't need appraisers, we don't need people in the real estate industry. So they use that same tool because it is equally wrong across the boards. Automated valuations, as agents, we know how far off those things are. If you're looking at his estimate, try to figure out your home value, it's not worth the paper it's written on, which is no paper anymore, but so those things are so far off, because what they're doing is they're using a computer model to try to find similar homes in square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, and area. But the computer models don't really know the areas that well. So they're going within like a mile of your home or a 2-mile radius of your home.
Yeah.
But there are very specific things that they miss. Like maybe the neighbor down the street had green shag carpet. So here you are being told that this value of your home is lower than what you thought. And it's because that one sold down the street and it was a total remodel, and the computer doesn't know that.
Nope.
So automated valuations are off. But what I love about this study is that they use them because it's a baseline. They're all off.
That's their control. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's their control. So using that as a baseline and then using some averages of commission, I love how they calculated that. So now real estate industry, I don't know if collateral analytics is with the real estate industry, but even just a study coming out using that as a standard data point, I love that, because it just shows that you do need an agent. I think it's the first study to show, with that as a control, the difference in what a home sells for sale by owner versus using an agent. And the agent makes more than their money back normally. So, or the seller makes more than the agent costs.
Totally.
So a good agent should pay you to list their home, right?
Exactly, with how much you're going to make back. And that's and that's exactly kind of how we say it. What I do like about it, the kind of automated value opinions, is that it does, because I'm a big proponent of empowering my clients with knowledge. So I do what's called buyer consultations, and it is an extra step, but it's an hour and a half up front. And it's the entire process. There's wants, needs. We go through everything, and then we talk about the process. It's especially amazing for first-time buyers, obviously. But even if you're on your 10th home, the market changes so much, But so I love that it's out there and people get an idea of value, so they can kind of watch the market on their own. But if you don't have something set up directly from the MLS, I see things off like 20% sometimes. They're like, I think my home was worth 500 grand. No, it's like a 410 house.
Yeah, not even close. Yeah, in Arkansas, there's a lot of unique properties, so it's way off in some parts.
That's true too. Yeah, when we get into like the old school, colonials or craftsmen's, but it's comparing homes that were built in 1970,
right,
to something in 1922 that's historical. Yeah, that's not right.
So let's move on to the second topic, because I think we're going to have a fight. Does the new iPhone affect real estate is kind of the topic, but however, you should know, Dan, that I've never missed an Apple keynote since the first time when Steve Jobs was up there saying that you have a communicator and a phone and music, and he kept saying it,
and then the touch screen,
and you realized it was all one thing. That's when I started watching Apple keynotes. So I don't know if there were any before that, but I've never missed an Apple keynote. So, I even live streamed this Apple keynote on Facebook and talked about it, knowing I knew everything that they were going to announce because I had already looked at all the spoilers and stuff. So I am talking to you on an iMac. I have an iPhone, iPads. I'm an i person. And you said Droid earlier. So
yeah, I'm literally all of those things that you said. I'm all of the opposite of that.
Okay, good.
Everything.
So
yeah,
the question I posed was, does the new iPhone, will it have an effect on real estate? What say you?
Look, okay. To me, out of all the things, and I have a bunch of specs here. So let's start with, let me see where we go.
You even found a couple of surprising things, right?
Yeah. Oh, cool. The Angels. I got some Angels stuff up here. I'm an Angels fan, so that's popping up just in my feed randomly. So I'll kind of try to tie it all into, is it going to change real estate or not? I mean, the short answer is, to me, no. It's doing a lot of things that other phones have already done. But where do iPhones excel? I think their cameras have always been superior, and they're always pushing that envelope. So that's great, because I don't want this to come off like I'm just bashing Apple products, because I do constantly, like literally when I'm not on here or doing real estate. My wife's like, dude, shut up. I don't even care. I have a Samsung too. Shut up. Anyone that'll listen, I'm bashing it. No, I'm just kidding. Great phones. Their battery life has always been amazing. Now I feel, and you'll know better than I, because I still watch keynotes when, they're big ones. Like, I remember when that touchscreen came out. I mean, that was just like, I remember I was working at the video game company. It was just like, all of us were just, I'm getting goosebumps right now remembering watching that. What was that?
Yeah.
10, 11 years ago?
Yeah.
Probably.
This was the 10th anniversary. So yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, Apple X. Makes a whole bunch of sense. And everything was BlackBerry, and they had that little roller, which was kind of cool, and you could do the cursor around. And then it, boom, done. That BlackBerry hasn't been heard of since. But so here's, and I don't know if they correlate exactly, but I feel like Jobs was always pushing it,
right,
almost to a fault, meaning he didn't care about what you wanted. He gave you what you wanted.
Right.
Which is what I loved about him. It's kind of a dicky move, but he knew what you wanted, and he put it, it was so brilliant. Everything was, then you're like, I have to have that. So I felt like the frenzy was bigger. Now Tim Cook seems to be more following trends or trying to keep up. I don't want to dog the guy. I think he's an important part of tech. I just, I feel like it's always catching up. So the article I brought up, it's Apple's, let's see, what's the web? It's on Forbes. Apple's new iPhones may have do have a nasty surprise. And as you read through, it gives all the positive. It's redesigns. It's got the full screen display, which again, on my Samsung, theirs is a little bigger, but mine, if you can see it, let me bring it up. Come on, as I fail. See, it's got a full big screen on it. It's skinny. I can unlock it with my finger, as it doesn't work. There, I unlocked it with my finger. It's got all those cool parts to it as well, but it gives all those positives up front. And then as you start reading, everyone knows what's the cost on the X going to be, Ray?
$999.
$999. That's for 64 gig.
Yeah.
If you want 256, I think you're in the 1150, 1200 range.
Yes, I should say starting at $999.
Yeah, soothing room tones.
That's right.
Sorry, side joke, people. Yeah, it's right here. So yes, despite Apple pricing its new phones as high as $1149, not a single one of the iPhones will come with a fast charger. So they finally caught up. I had a 6 and I skipped the 7 Samsung Galaxy S6. Skipped the 7. Now I have an 8. I get a new phone every 2 years, which a lot of people do. I've been fast charging since the 6. So this is nothing new for me. This is 3 years ago. But the catch is it doesn't come with the charger. So out the box, you cannot fast charge. And I remember when they first made, I guess it was the last keynote, when they introduced one jack. Everything's through one jack.
Right, yeah.
It felt like a ploy to sell a bunch of extra stuff to me.
Yeah.
As of kind of I'll stop there. What do you think about just that, the extra stuff thing?
So, I mean, most of the people who purchase Apple don't care. I'm looking forward to having a couple of pads around the house that you could set your phone on and charge them. I'll probably have one at the
Yeah,
office, one by my bed, and then one somewhere
yeah.
downstairs, you know. So, that's probably I'm guaranteeing those are going to be like 150, something like, I don't even know how much those cost yet, but
They
it's
don't
probably,
have, they have not released that yet.
yeah.
Yeah, this article says it's going to be the Apple Air Power Mat.
Yeah. So I'll probably have one of those. Wife will probably have one of those. So I don't, I don't think that's a huge concern because we're kind of used to it. Like,
But isn't that a bad thing?
well, I don't, it's, so to me, it's worth it to have the technology,
Right.
to have the,
But so, sorry to interrupt. On the catching up thing, is I've been able to walk into a Starbucks for 2 years and just, I don't have to do a thing with this phone. I set it down. There's no special setting. I set it down and it's
right.
charging.
Right.
It's got the little circular thing, so it's a catching up thing. I don't, I have, it comes with my little charger that I can plug in, which, by the way, we had to play catch up. This had to play catch up because now it's a universal. I can put it in. One of the annoying things on these phones is if you put it in the wrong way, you're just like, oh, I just grinded it up. My charger's not going to work. And then after a year, your charger's loose and not charging the phone.
Oh no.
So they caught up there. So now it's either way. It doesn't matter. It's nice and easy as I struggle to put it in.
So on the Qi charging thing, I think that's going to make Apple's change to that, or Apple's, I guess you could say, adoption of that. I think that's going to help further that. So, I mean, one of the things I told a friend was Android users should be praising Apple for finally adopting that, because now mass market has it, and that's going to be everywhere.
Yeah. Now I wanted to ask you a question, because I'm going to break down actual prices in a second, and then we can kind of finish up with how does it affect real estate. What do you think this is going to affect? Are people going to go, dude, I want the top of the line phone. I want the biggest, the memory with the 256 gigs. I can't afford that much money and then pay for all the extra stuff. Do you think this is going to hurt their brand a little bit?
No, I think they've always been more of the BMW versus the Honda Civic.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of utilitarian phones out there that
I think you just said I have a Civic.
Maybe, I don't know. No, there's some other phones, maybe Jags or something, maybe the high-end Androids, but Apple is also still offering the 5 SE or whatever it is, the stripped down, small, looks like a thin pack of cigarettes phone. They also still
but those are now the phones that the bad guys use for burners.
Yeah, it's true too. But they still have those at a very, very, very reasonable price point. So if you want to be in the Apple ecosystem, you could still enter at about what it would cost you for a mid-range Android. You could have I would say low-end Apple, right? I think it only helps their brand because it's an aspirational purchase for a lot of people. So for me, for example, even in real estate, I'm not just going to shell out the money. I want to make, based on what we've averaged, I want to make a little more than what I have averaged just so I can earn it. And so
that's a big thing in real estate. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I just don't want to shell out the cash and say, well, here, I'm going to figure out how to pay for it later. I know when it's coming out. I know when I'll have to pay for it. So I might as well, start saving now and make the purchase. So it's also a tool, which we could get to in a minute, but I think always having somebody's going to be top of the line out of all the phone makers out there. We can all agree it's not Windows. It's not Windows. It's not, but the cool thing about Android is that there's a lot of different phone makers. Samsung is probably one of the high end phone makers for Droid. I think Apple is the high end phone maker for Apple. There's no one else that can make an Apple. So they have to make something that's high end, and they have to also have something that's at more of an entry level. And one of the issues that I have with the X or 10 is that it might be hard to get. I heard a report the other day saying that one of the reasons why it's delayed a month is because they can only make 10,000 a day. So in a month, that's only 30,000 or 300. Is that 300? Yes, 300,000. Yeah. Well, the demand for this is going to way outpace the number that they can make. So I
Yeah.
think that's another reason why they could get away with having a really high purchase price, is because it's not going to be available. So and that's why they released
Yeah.
the 8 and the 8S. Most people are going to say, well, I want an upgraded phone, I'm just going to go with that. So
And
personally, I'm
then
hoping a lot of people buy the 8 and the 8S now because they can't
right.
wait. I don't want to wait. And then
Right.
that releases some of that demand so that by the time that comes out, I can go buy it. But it's going to be a fight to
Right.
get it.
Yeah. And then going back to prices of these things. So it breaks it down. This is all the different phones from the 8 to the 8 Plus to the X. iPhone X, 64 gigs going to be 100, like Ray said, and then 1149 for the 256. The 8, 69, 699, and I think I just wanted to say 69, 699 and 849 respectively. 800, 949. So they're still more expensive,
Right.
than, because I think my phone, I looked it up, it was 650, but if you go with this carrier, then it's 500 or 600 or whatever. But now they have those payment plans. I think my opinion would be that would alleviate some of this too, because they're not like, I got to write a check right now or throw $1,149 on my card right now.
Well, I don't even.
Instead, it's part of your plan.
I don't even think they've released an unlocked version of the X. So I think you have to go through a carrier, and then there's always temptation there to get 0% financing through the carrier, and you just add it to your phone bill. And that's what, the last time we went, that's what we did is we added I think I'm on a 7 right now. And so we added that to the phone bill, and then over 2 years paid. So now it's done, and I can either trade that in, get a big discount on the X, or I can keep it. Usually you just pass it to your kids and then get the X and then do another payment plan, or you can just shell out the cash. So actually mathematically it worked out the same. So
and I think that's just kind of part of people's thinking. And I think you have a very healthy thought process on, I'm not just going to struggle to afford this phone. I'm going to make enough or more to afford it. Because then you go towards the fast wire chargers, another $50. But if you go with the higher end one, it's 80. Lightning to USB cable is another 35. We don't know the AirPower yet, but you were saying 100, 150 probably.
That's what I'm guessing.
And then the AirPods wireless charging is 70. So, I mean, you're well into this thing for like $1,400 for a phone.
Yeah. But think about the relationship that people have with their phone, right?
Yeah.
How many times a day do you look at it? How many times a day do you touch it? How many times, it's usually the first thing you touch besides your spouse, maybe, and maybe, right? So you wake up and look and see what time it is. Nobody has alarm clocks. They look at their phone. Before they go to the bed, they look, see what time it is, go into bed, set alarms. Nobody.
My watch doesn't even work.
It's just for looks.
I look at just for looks. I look at my phone.
So just in given how much of my life I'm going to be spending with this device, I would rather spend the money on something that I really want to hold, use, that just works. Cause I'm kind of a hacker. So if I had a Droid, I'd be tinkering with that thing all the time, like doing cool things and changing around things and all that.
Right.
So I think I'm okay being into it $1,400, maybe $1,500, because it's such a part of everything I do in life in general, but also in real estate. I mean, that's how, when I first started shooting videos, it was on an iPhone.
Yeah.
So it's totally changed now how a lot of people do business in real estate itself, because of the technology housed in that little box.
So that's where, like, is this going to be a game changer, or was the iPhone a game changer when it first came out with the great camera, the battery life, and all that stuff? So I don't know if this one will, because I think they're kind of playing catch up on certain features, but their cameras have always been amazing.
Well, here's the big change for me: augmented reality.
Yeah,
that could be the game changer, because they're already showing demos of like little Disney characters where you could just hit a button and it adds a Disney character to some kind of environment. So that's Disney advertising, marketing themselves through this. Well, what if somebody could, look at a house, say they drive up to a house, they see this house, they could hold their phone up, and as they're taking a picture of the house, it says tap here for an AR version. So they tap there, and there I am standing in front of the house saying, hey guys, thanks so much for checking out this property. Let me tell you a little bit about it, and takes them into a video, lets them walk through the house and all that kind of stuff. That's where I think we're getting there. And it took something like an Apple that was capable of augmented reality, which that's been done for now 4 or 5 years. They've been doing augmented reality, virtual reality. The Droids have had it, I think, for 2 years on some of your phones, but now just like the Qi charger will be mass adopted because of Apple, I think augmented reality is going to start to be mass adopted because of Apple.
Yeah.
The number one phone for millennials is Apple.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I don't think about it that way because I'm not an Apple guy, but is it, if that's considered the standard or the mass market, the main market, then, and it's taking on things like they were like, I don't know about that yet, but now they've accepted it. I think that's a big deal because there's been things, and like you can do, um, I before there was any sort of kind of live, like what do you call it, FaceTime,
Right.
or through Messenger. They have that now. I would record walkthroughs for my out of area clients and then Dropbox them to them or Google Docs to them, so they could um, see the home. Now this is just like live. They don't even have to show up. You're just walking through it. And if you could do it pre-recorded, where they just tap a button and you recorded it, what, 10 minutes ago, an hour ago, 2 days ago, whatever.
Right.
That's a big game changer to me, especially for being a buyer's agent.
Yeah, true. And you could hear comments from the seller, or from the seller and seller's agent right there in front of the property too.
Yeah.
I think it could be, we'll kind of wait and see, but I think augmented reality has a place in real estate and everybody's trying to figure out exactly what that is. But I think it's more than trying to set a chair or a couch in your living room.
Yeah. And hey, we didn't fight.
That's right. Not too bad.
You called my phone a Civic, but I'll let it go. It's fine. It's fine.
So let's get into the value insured study. So there's several other statistics on this that I wanted to punch out. Home prices in my area are overvalued and unsustainable. 57% of all homeowners think that. 80% of millennial home buyers think that, or home owners think that.
Why do they think that? That is the question.
Well, they haven't lived long, right? I mean,
yeah, they don't know.
I say this I think I'm the eldest millennial, born in 82. We're right between the X and the millennial generation. Some people call us the Oregon Trail year. So it's
That's good.
Being born in 82, we lived our life without computers or technology until we were about 13 or 14.
Yeah.
Right. Then we were in junior high and high school with a computer, or a computer room, computer classes.
With America Online. Yeah.
Right. Then we went to dial up. Then we went to college, and if you graduated in 4 years, graduated college without Facebook. So in 2005, Facebook launched to the campuses worldwide. And so I'm a weird generation. And I think, it's my opinion, but I think millennials feel a little bit like they're owed something in general. And they're very mobile. Yeah. They've been the most mobile generation for years. And I think one of the concerns is when they buy today at the top of the market, are they going to get hosed when they sell in 2 to 3 years?
Right. And that's where you have to watch the market. Are they overthinking it? Have they watched the market too much? Have they put too much importance on that study that we spoke about earlier with those automated values? Are they giving too much credence to that? That's where I would really worry about it, that they're just going to stop. I don't even need an agent to talk to, but then that makes them afraid of the market. Right. That could be twofold a disaster,
Yeah. And I think the other thing that they may not be thinking about is right now we still have historically low rates, and rates are going up, and rates could cost a lot more than a change in price of homes.
That's how we say it when we're talking to someone that's a seller and also a buyer. I don't know if you can see my hands here. You're going to be another, percent. Like it's not going to be that big a difference. But even if it went up 1%, we're still historically low, crazy low. Like 7% would be still fine. When my father-in-law bought a home in 1992, it was 17%. If you look back through, and then the early 80s, it was 19%. So historically, we're good. I mean, over 30 years, that's going to cost you could make, and then you get into predict the market thing. If we're speaking to consumers, don't ever try to predict the market.
Right.
People that have studied way more than me have failed at it. Just don't try to predict the market. Try to leverage yourself. And now is just simply the best time to be doing that because interest rates are still at 4%.
Yep, exactly. The other part of the study, we actually talked about this a little bit earlier. More homeowners expect price correction and see now's the time to sell. 58% think there will be a correction in the next 2 years. 83% of people think now is the time to sell. I thought that was really interesting because there's a lot of people that are still asking me what rates are going to do and what home prices are going to do in the future. And I always tell them, I don't know, but if you need to move, now's the time to move.
Exactly. And I've been kind of expecting a big change, and they did go up a little bit. Now they've kind of dipped back down. They've stayed, they've held. So now it's like every day is another, how long are they going to hold? That's kind of my, on the buy side solely, that's kind of my, how long are they going to hold? So to me, it's more of a, if you're thinking about, if you have to sell or you have to move or you have to buy, what are you waiting for? What's the holdup? If it's a credit issue, let's fix it. If it's not enough down payment, let me see if I can help you with assistance. You know what I mean? Let's get to it, talking to a lender and go.
And what's the value of owning your home versus trying to be an investor? That's the other conversation I have with buyers is, are we, when they're like, well, I want to get a good deal on the house, ask them, are you an investor or are you wanting to be a homeowner? Because in this market, if you're wanting to be a homeowner, you're going to pay about market value for the home. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
This other part of the study, it's in blue here. It says, if I were to buy a home today, I'm confident that it would be worth more next year. Only 48% of home buyers thought that their home would go up in value next year. 43% of millennials thought it would go up next year. So most of them believe that if they were to buy a home today, it will go down.
More than 50% of both for both cases.
Yeah, which I guess it's nearly 50%. So I guess it's a shot in the dark, right?
Yeah, hey, it could or could not, but
it could or could not.
Again, if it's a price correction, then it'll be like a, it won't be like a, the tail wagging.
Crash,
it like, crash like it was before. It was a big, tail wagging, and everything just went. Things that were worth 550 were worth 275, and areas that should never be worth 550 were worth 550. Like where I live specifically in my farm, it is very stable. I have, our home, we bought it for 410,000. It's now worth 468 over 4 years. It's a very steady increase. Yeah. Do I think it's going to keep doing that forever? No. But do I think it'll plateau? Yes, absolutely. But to think you're going to make, again, the investor thing, to think you're going to make a bunch of money in a year. Yep. No, this is a long-term thing. Lock yourself in. Right. And if things change in 5 to 7 years or 3 to 5, which is more the case nowadays, let's see where you're at and leverage that.
And most people, you got to think moving. Like, you wouldn't move next year if you thought the market was going to go down in 3 years just because you want to cash out on your equity. Most people don't move for that reason. Most people move because they're expanding their family, or they're downsizing, or job changes, or whatever. So it's not like everyone's trying to get a good deal or sell at the top of the market. That's very few people are actually going to try to sell at the top of the market. So what do? Yeah. Well, you can, like you were saying, start to leverage yourself. So as soon as you start to see the world go on sale, have the money there waiting to start purchasing.
Yeah. I just
So just call Dan, the buyer specialist.
Yeah, you just call me. Unless you're in Arkansas, then we got to call Ray.
That's right. All right, so let's do our bonus story. Normally, we're going to dig into 3 or 4 of the stories at length. This time, I added one bonus. It is a study by Inman. Oh, it's not really a study. It's just an article by Inman that Dan has not read.
I have not seen it. I can't see it.
Right. 15 crazy real estate myths your clients believe. So number 1, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt you a little bit. Real estate agents are paid a salary.
Yeah. So they're saying that people believe this.
Yeah, they're saying that people believe that real estate agents are paid a salary, which I could see because
I get
work for a broker, right? So I could see some of that.
Yeah, they don't understand the whole self-employed thing.
Right.
They don't understand. Some people cannot even fathom 100% commission. It's like when I tell them, no, I'm 100% commission. There's no like stipend at the end of every month. No, I have to go interview for a new job every time I meet a new client. You know
what? Maybe we should stop saying 100% commission, because I think that gets to myth number 2. The agent keeps all the commission.
Yeah. Well, just to piggyback the 2, because on the buy side, I say it at the end of, just to remind everyone, because there's a lot of agents out there. I won't say a lot. There's a chunk. Remember, California has a ton of licensed agents, which makes it a frenzy and can bring out the sketchy people. There are some buyer's agents that charge their clients.
Yeah.
Even though, so if let's say it's a 2.5% listing, which is very standard around here meaning just the buy side, whatever that is to get them to 3%, that will be their client paying them.
Yeah. We have agents that do that too. And the way they do it here is like, I don't mind if you want to charge a premium for your premium buyer services, that's fine.
Yeah.
But be upfront with them. Don't
Yeah.
sneak it into the contract and then
Right.
say in the closing costs, seller to pay up to this much in closing cost prepaids and professional fees. That's
Right.
sneaky.
Oh, by the way,
I always counter that. Like, no, you want your client to pay you more. You get your client to pay you more.
Yeah. So I always tell them at the end of that, my services, everything, all this awesomeness is free to you. If you've ever talked to another agent that was going to charge you on the buy side, that doesn't happen. So, all right. What was the number 2 again?
Number 2 is
keep 100%
on the commission. Yeah.
I mean, it depends on this is another thing they can't know because they're not with a brokerage. They don't know they have no idea what splits are. When you say that, they just,
Yep.
But I'm part of a company that's flat fee. So, but we still offer all of and I don't want this to turn into a pitch.
Right.
But we still offer all the training and stuff because one of the co-founders, my partner, he's just a natural trainer and he loves doing it. If you guys saw me do this, earlier, that was him walking in. He just loves doing it. So it's a part of our culture as well. And a lot of us come from other companies that have that as part of their culture. So I like that model because I get to still learn, but I'm not giving up 40, 50% of my commission. So,
well, and it also depends on taxes, expenses, because number 4 says an agent's gas mileage and other transportation expenses are reimbursed.
No, written off. Yes. But I think if I'm correct, I get to write 2/3 off of my total gas mileage, which on the buy side is a lot. So, but yeah, no, there's no reimbursement. Again, we're independent contractors. Essentially. We have a
tiny small business.
Yes. Just a tiny little small business with a big beard.
Marketing.
Did we skip 3?
No, that was 3 was typical commission is 6%. Oh yeah, maybe we did.
We did.
But you talked a little bit about the difference in percentages. It depends on where you are in the transaction. Are you on the buy side, sell side?
Yeah.
The commission is also split between, with broker reciprocity, another agent in the market. I just thought these were really interesting. I've run into several of these. I mean, of course, commission is always negotiable, but there are some markets that have a super low. There's some markets that are super high. So there is no typical, especially for the antitrust laws.
Yeah, we have a lot of discount brokers, and it's frustrating. I know you have some in your area in our conversations. We have a lot here. I mean, billboards that say, "I'll sell your house for 1%." Now, and Jacob and I, my partner, we had this conversation on the way back because we were driving from kind of a 45-minute away drive listing, one of our new team listings, and we're boom, billboard now. And we were like, well, would we rather keep our integrity intact? And we charge 3% on the listing side for what we do, but it doesn't matter the house, $100,000 house, $100 million house. We're doing video, we're doing high-end pics,
right?
We're doing all of our marketing, the same social media presence. We're targeting ads. I mean, you get it no matter what. So that's kind of factored into why we make the 3%, right?
Yep.
But there are so many out here just discounts. So then their side would be just get them through the process, just put them through the mill. There's no connection. There's no long-term. There's not a lot of referrals. If you just kind of, all right, get the pictures, get it going, get them through. Cool, that one's in escrow. Get them out of here. That's, and I also think, kind of jumping off the 6% thing, that what we do, our team specifically, is going to be, if there is a dip, to tie all these subjects in, if there is a troubled market, what we do will prove to be the way to go.
Right.
Because we actually sell homes. We don't just put them on the MLS, put a sign in the yard, then pray someone else sells them. We actually sell and market homes.
Yep.
Those are my thoughts.
This is another good one. A home passes or fails inspection. I hear that a lot. Did we pass inspection? It's like, well, that's the opinion of the buyer.
Like it's black or white?
Yeah. Or like it's a city doing it.
Yeah.
No, I have to explain to them
interesting.
The opinion of the buyer.
Yes, and that I cover in again, my buyer's consults.
Yep.
Have I told you guys I do buyer's consults?
Well, let me go ahead and read 7 too, because it's with this. Inspectors have to find something, don't they?
Yeah. Oh wow, that's a huge one. I see that all the time.
Yeah.
So I'll tackle the first one, and again, I cover it in my buyer's consultations. And then how that first part is pass or fail. So I've already kind of covered, but then how my inspector that I use says it, he said, this isn't a fix it list. I'm not giving you a list of everything that has to be fixed on the home. This is more of we're letting you know the current condition of the home. This is part of your discovery period. Then if there's anything that bugs you, we can move forward from there. So it's not a pass or fail thing. Right. So, but, I guess I kind of hear that, but then I hear, what was the next one? The
inspectors have to find something.
Yeah. I hear that all the time. Now, I've never seen, and our inspector says the same thing. He's never seen a perfect home. There's not a perfect home. One of the worst homes I've ever had inspected that I was in escrow on was a brand new construction home.
Yep.
It was horrible. It wasn't finished. There was this missing and that missing, so everything, they're going to find something on everything. But if it's a clean house and he just finds missing window screens and cracked pavement, he's not making things up. He's not looking for things. He doesn't.
They have standards they have to go by anyway.
Yeah, they have standards. They have guidelines as well, but
Ashy.
It's not that he has to find something. It's just every home has something. They always find something.
Right. Weekends bring out the most serious buyers.
Weekends?
Yeah, that's what it says. I didn't know that people thought that. I mean, weekdays, those are my most serious clients.
I would say that, when they go to work until 4 or 5 p.m. and then they're still going, that's more serious to me. Yeah. And I say the same thing about buyers that are looking during the fall and the winter. Yep. Those are the more serious buyers. Yep. Like they're not moving because they have to. No, they want to buy a house. So I would say it's the opposite.
That's what I would say too.
During the week.
Zillow says, therefore it is Zestimates. We've kind of already done that one, so we don't have to spend much time. And
it just makes me angry when people, well, my house says, the Zestimate
I think we should offer this because that's what the Zestimate says. No, it's better to price a home on the high side. The seller can always come down.
No, I touched on that earlier. That's chasing the market down. So
I do a lot of listings, and that's one of the worst things you could do. The market will always correct when you list up. And just for a crazy example, if you took a $1 million house and you listed it for $200,000, where would it sell? Right? It would probably sell way over 200,000, might even make it over $1 million. So the market will always correct.
Yes. And that's kind of the part of the wizardry of it. Will it correct to where it should have been? I don't know.
Yeah.
But having the thought,
if you correct downward, it's more painful and you will go lower than it would have had it corrected up.
Yeah. Exactly. If we try to price things with a strategy, if there's like a bubble, the low side and the high side in the middle,
just under that.
Kind of the sweet spot is here, just under it. Because, if it's maybe a 410 house, we're going to push for a price of $399. Again, most eyeballs, because in the first 3 weeks, 85% of the people that are going to see that home are seeing it. So if you do miss it, you need to drop your price before that 3 weeks. So to still keep it, to still keep it active. Why can't I say that? That's so weird. But chasing it down is just the worst way to go.
This one's right up your alley. When making an offer on a home, you start with a low offer. It's kind of the opposite of what we just heard on the seller's side.
Yeah, I just say and again in my consult, I say everything to me. Every single home is its own little.
Yep. If every home, every seller situation is different,
it's all different. Know. Even if you had the exact same home, the exact same everything, this motivation is different than this motivation. It's so.
Yeah, and you have to understand that if you start with a low offer and they get 3 other offers that night, they may just take one of the others because you scared them with your low one.
And you won't even
not even get a counter.
You won't even get a counter, which is the worst case scenario. You don't even know where they stand, So yeah, no.
The longer the home is on the market, the more negotiable the deal. We kind of covered that one with every home being its own situation.
Sure, kind of.
Multiple price reductions means the seller is desperate to sell. It probably means they priced too high on the high side.
I think they just missed it, and they didn't get any offers. But it also depends on how long they've been on market. If they're reducing the price in the first 2 weeks very quickly and very, big dips, then they're super motivated.
Yeah, they're going to sell. Multiple offers gives the sellers an advantage. This is interesting. That sounds very right. But as someone who walks through those multiple offer situations with the seller, it's tormenting, right? Here's the deal with multiple offers. A lot of agents will say, hey, we have multiple offer situations. Submit your highest and best offer tomorrow by 5, and we'll review those.
Yes.
Well, if they haven't told the seller that, it could be detrimental because I go back and tell my buyers, and my buyers are like, oh, you know what? Let's pull our offer on that one. Let's go offer on a different one. I don't want to be competitive. So now they don't have multiple offers. They just told me that they did, but they never told the sellers. So they haven't reached the sellers yet to let them know. So now they let the sellers know, well, we had multiple offers, but now we only have one, and maybe you're stuck with the worst one and they don't change the price. You've just screwed your seller. So I always tell my sellers that I never will tell anyone that we have multiple offers until I've checked it with them first. Then once they give me the approval, there's a couple of different ways to play it. You could just counter one. You just take one. But I always tell them in our market, it's less hot, I would say, than probably yours. But if there's an offer in this bunch that allows you to do what you want to do, make the move you want to make, live the life you want to live, the best negotiation strategy you could do in that case is probably to take the offer. Because if you counter, or if you tell anyone in that group, hey, it's multiple offers, they could all run away. And then you don't have anything. Yeah. So
see, and for me specifically, I don't run away. I let my client decide, kind of like you're saying on the listing side, is hey, they have multiple offers. I see the prices. It could get driven up. If it goes crazy, I say we walk. And if I kind of get that vibe, I say we move on to the next one because we're not going to overpay for things. I don't know. Going back, I don't know if the market's going to keep going up to get you enough back. If it's $5,000 above, sure, let's stay in the market or in the mix and see if we can compete. But I would never pull them from it. But I agree with you. Like, wait until everything's been presented and then respond, And
I always let my buyers kind of choose what they want to do. Whenever I bought my house, it was a multiple offer situation. My own strategy that I tell my clients is to put in your walkaway offer, to where if you were to hear someone tomorrow bought it for $100 more, you'd say, good for them. Glad we didn't offer that. And you'd be fine with it.
And that's what we did. So when I bought my house, I put together a crazy offer. We bought our house for $410,000. I beat an offer of $422,000 and $433,000. Those were never, ever going to appraise. The only reason I got it to appraise is because at $410,000, which we were a little bit under, but still, so it's not about the price always. But I wrote this out and that out and was competitive in other ways. It's not always about the price. It's just not in my markets anyway.
Number 15, last one, all agents are the same.
No. You're looking at two dudes right now. No.
I mean, similar good looks, but other than that.
Yeah. I mean, I just mean you and I together compared to the rest. No.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, dude, right here, iPhone. Yeah, Civic.
So that's it.
He likes BMWs, I don't.
There you go. So that's it for the talking points for this episode. Next, we'll get into the pick of the week, which we should probably do pretty quick. So
I have a quick one.
Pick.
For me, and this is because I didn't know which way we were going to go, but it is if you are an agent type of thing. So if you're in the industry, there's an app out there called Magisto, Magisto. I've played with it a little bit. I haven't really put it into use yet. It's a newer thing to me. One of our colleagues kind of mentioned it and actually sent us a video that she made. It looked very, very professional. You just take a couple different video shots you can put overlays on it, the price, you can flash this in, and that's all just on the free version.
Nice.
It's a pretty legit app. And I wanted to add to that, you can go out and buy yourself a gimbal. The one Ray mentioned when we were off air was a little more expensive, but it's super dialed. I think it's in the 500 range. And there's another one. Yes, and it's totally, that's what our videographer uses. But you can get one for yourself for like $100, $200, and you have a really good one. And then whatever phone you prefer, just throw that in the gimbal and do your little walkthroughs, and it'll keep your phone steady. If you don't know what a gimbal is, that's the thing that keeps your phone steady. So you're not doing this as you walk through, and get yourself a couple cool different shots, and then boom, throw it right into the app, and there you go. You look like a professional, and it didn't cost you that much money.
I like it. I'll stick these into the show notes as well, so they have links for it too. Magisto, Magisto.
Magisto, yeah. And I downloaded it. There's a paid version where you can be a business. I don't remember. I think it was $20 a month. You get a lot more, but there was great music selections. And it was just super simple. Oh, I didn't know what I was doing, so when I recorded a video, I talked in it because I talk too much, obviously. And the music will dip. So when you're talking, the music will dip. And then when you stop talking,
Oh, that's cool.
you know, it's just a cool little app. And I thought it was a great tip for, you know, people that want to kind of DIY it.
Like it. My pick of the week is this website called Xylo. No, I'm kidding.
It's a new thing.
No, so if you haven't tried the Cash App, just Google Cash App. It's a green app on, I think it works for everything. I literally just used it. It's now how I pay like photographers, videographers. They could send me a request for money using my cell phone. I just click yes, it goes to them, or they can say, hey man, the bill's $200. I could type 200, put their cell phone number in, say go. It goes. It also sends me it sends me a receipt via email. It's noted on the account. So it's like super, super simple way to pay somebody. You don't have to get out your card. And it's so much easier to use than PayPal or Venmo or anything like that, but it's called the Cash App. So check that out.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks everybody for checking out the Bearded Men of Real Estate podcast. Like I said, this was our first one, so we look forward to episode 2 that should come. I think normally we're going to try to shoot these on Thursday. So if you have any articles or anything like that you want us to hit on, be sure to send it to us before then. Any suggestions, we also appreciate those. We'd be happy to take those. So you can find me on most social networks at Ray Zorback, RayZorback, because I'm an Arkansas Razorback fan. Dan, where can they find you, man?
My usual tag out there is just D Ludwig Rocks, DLUDWIG. That will be on essentially anything but Facebook. I'm Dan Ludwig. But yeah, D Ludwig Rocks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.